What's up, guys? Welcome back. Today I'm going to be doing a different video. I'm going to be answering some questions that I've been getting on the EGR. So here I have the EGR cooler. It's just for a third generation 2010 Prius. I don't have the top portion of the EGR to show you more on this side, but we'll discuss the tools that I used to take this off the cooler. And for this, I ended up using hose clamps to cut off the coolant on the area here. I picked these up at Harbor Freight. I didn't want to deal with draining out the coolant. They work really good. So you clamp them down and you pull this out. I know that when you're in there, you don't have much space. This should be facing the firewall or the other way. Like this. So when you're pulling this off, you don't have much space because the inverter's in your way to your right, but you're able to put this in a spot in there where you're able to just pull the hose enough where it barely clears this side, so you'll have a little bit of space here. And also the same thing for this top one. So pick up some hose clamps at Harbor Freight for that, and a tool that I use to take out the bolt that's on this side. So here's an actual bolt that belongs there. So you'll need a 12 for this one. You could use a socket or a wrench on this one. And then you're gonna need the 6-point to get this out. So you'll get a female socket, and this is a E8. So you see that there. And they come in a set. Pick this up at Harbor Freight Tool, and you see how this lines up in there, and you're able to take this out. I had to take this top one out, all the way out, unscrew it all the way out, so I have the clearance to take this out, because you also have to deal with the ones on the bottom. So pick a set up at Harbor Freight. Should be a set like this. Just come in 6. If you find short ones, pick up some short ones too. It'll come in handy. And another thing that I used for this E8, not sure exactly what this is called, but I picked this up at Home Depot. So you put an adapter there. I was able to put this guy in here, and it gives you a little bit more space when you're working in here, and it flexes too, so it helped to take that off. The bottom one, or these back ones too, where the exhaust meets. And I also picked up a small wrench to help me with the job there. So the reason I didn't drain the coolant was because I didn't want to deal with burping the system on the third gen. It's already a pain just getting to the area, so giving yourself more work, I just didn't want to go and do that. So I just clamped them off, and I was okay with that. I didn't have no issues. Another question that I got was, what triple square socket did I use to take off the head bolts on the third generation Prius? I'm going to use this as an example. This is for a second gen 2004 and 2009. These are the head bolts for that. And here's a triple square. This is a 12mm triple square point. It's a Vega brand. The store is no longer around for this one, but you can pick up a set at Amazon. The company's called Victor Tools. It's like 40-50 bucks, and you have your 12-point here. So this is your 12-point, and then for the second generation is an M9 12-point. These worked out really good. I went all over the place looking for these local auto parts, and everything was special order. You couldn't find nothing, so I ended up ordering these, and I was able to finish the job on that. So 12-point triple square. I don't have a specific brand that I'm using, just, you know, something that worked, and I ended up using this one on the 3rd generation with an extension. And just remember that when you're gonna take off your head bolts to shock your threads, so you'll use something to hit the top of the extension. So it would be like this, and you'll shock the threads to loosen this up. So hit it a couple times, work your you know, you'll hear that first pop when you're unbolting it. Come back a little bit, you'll see this shift. It's gonna look like it's bending, but you're supposed to get a pop out of it. So you hear the first pop and then come back and then hit it a couple more times and then go again. You'll hear another pop, and once you hear that second pop, the first pop, you know it's gonna break loose, so you'll be fine. If you don't hear a pop, just keep working it until you get a pop out of it. If not, this will snap. I haven't had an experience on this snapping on me, but I had a bad experience on one stripping. So what I ended up doing was shoving a bigger size. So these are M9. I shoved that M10 in here, and it's pretty solid in there. And I was able to break this one free. So if this does strip on you, put a bigger triple square point on there, shove it in there, hit it real hard, and, you know, say a prayer, and hopefully it breaks loose. If not, I'm not sure what would be the next option there. So I was able to find at AutoZone, luckily I found a triple square point, a set like this, but this still wasn't going to work out for me because this is an M12. I didn't need an M12, I needed an M9, and this is an M10, an M8, and an M6. So you could probably use this one depending on if this is going to slide in between the area of the valve caps on top of where the cam gears are, when in between, so you can get to the head studs, the head bolts. So you might be able to get away with it. This was, I believe, $24 or $18 for this little set here at AutoZone. I had to jump on a Snap-on truck and ask to see if they carried it, because I was, you know, really needing that, just that one specific one, that M9, and they didn't have it. And if the guy in the truck told me they run up to 80 to 100 bucks there just for one. So I was able to pick this one up for, you know, half the price, and you have a full set. So Victor Tools on Amazon, and it worked out for me. You know, I've done 3 runs on it so far, so good. Now another question that I got was, what did I use to clean the head to make it look really, really shiny? So what I ended up using was a product called Chem Dip. This product here, you can pick this up at O'Reilly's and AutoZone. It'll run close to 40 bucks or 45 bucks, depending on how much taxes are in that area. This works really good. What I did with this was buy 2 gallons. Let me show you here. I picked up a container like this. You pick this up at Home Depot. Here's a couple of the cans from this one. Some caps here. Well, anyways, I filled this container up with this fluid, this carburetor cleaner, and I just took the whole head and I left it in here. I submerged it. I left it like that, and let it sit. And I would get a little cup, come in here and spill some more of that fluid on top, and just keep filling it, come to it. I'll take a small toothbrush, brush inside the area, Then I would flip it on its side, and I would also take more fluid and dump it in here, clean it with the brush. Then I flipped it over. After an hour of sitting on one side, I flipped it over, and then I worked my way on top here, and also a toothbrush carburetor cleaner here. Then after I was done here, an hour after that, I rinsed it. I rinsed it with water. I waited. I used another same thing, container like this. I filled it up with synthetic oil, and I let this sit in here with synthetic oil for about another hour. And I cleaned it all up, put everything back, and I was able to bolt it back on. No problems there whatsoever. The car's running good. Another question that I got was, where did I take the head to get resurfaced? I didn't take it to get resurfaced because I called a machine shop and I talked to one of the guys there, and they explained to me that a lot of these cars you can get away with not resurfacing the head. You could just take a ruler to it and see if it's not warped or you have any gaps. So I'm going to show you here what I did. Grabbed a flat ruler. You could pick one of these up, Home Depot or Lowe's, and I laid it right here, just like that, just to see if I have any gaps. It's supposed to be flat all the way across, and you go from here all the way like this, cross it this way, check to see if it lines up. In my case, everything lined up. I don't have to worry about actually getting this resurfaced. Another thing I did, once this was all clean, I picked up 2000 grit sandpaper, and I used a little bit of cleaner, and I just worked the area back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, until I got all the buildup off of here, everywhere, all the way around. I just worked my way all the way around. Took my time with it, not rushing this process because you didn't want to do too much damage or do anything that would harm the gasket from sitting flat. So once I did that, I took a little bit of brake cleaner on a rag. I wiped everything down. Then I picked one of these up. You can also pick this up at Harbor Freight. It's like a little plastic wire wheel deal. It's a little bigger. Put it on a drill, and I worked this area. Just this area here where the valves are with the drill. It cleaned up really nice. It took all of this buildup off on all of them. Also did this on the top of the piston. Here's the broken piston. So I took it and I did it here with the drill, back and forth until this was nice and clean without damaging the block. So you're not scratching nothing. Just take your time, don't rush through that process, clean it up as best as you can. You know, it's not going to be 100%, but it's going to be 10 times better than what it was. See, another question that I got was, where did I pick one of these up? I picked this up at O'Reilly's. This run about another 40 bucks, $45, and it comes with different fittings for the radiator necks, different types of radiator necks. So this sits perfect on the reservoir for the third generation. You use this adapter, and it sits flush right in that reservoir, so it doesn't move. And you put your coolant in here, and when you're done, you have this plug. You plug that up. You pull this away. There's going to be a little bit of spill. It's not too bad. And then you could put the excess back into the canister. So this one is the one that I use for the third, and this one here is the one I use for the second generation Prius. So it's got a radiator cap, goes on there, you tighten it up so it stays nice and tight, and this goes on top and you seal it. You can use these different fittings for different types of radiators. It doesn't necessarily have to be Toyota, so it works out. yourselves some of these hose clamps. They come in, one set comes with the big one, like this, the large one, a medium sized one, and a very small one. So I picked up 2 sets just so I can have 2 of each one. This works good on brake lines, water lines, any hoses that you're trying to clamp off. Works out good. Get 2 sets, so like that you have 2 of each size. And I don't remember how much this was, like $13, $15 around there for 1 set. Get yourself long nose. This comes in a set like this. Also, it'll help you a lot when you're doing these jobs. Get yourself a magnet. You're always going to be dropping stuff, so make sure you pick one of these up. Don't matter the brand. And also one of these long ratchets with the flex head on it, because you always get in some spots where you need that flexibility in there when you're putting in the socket. Also one of these. This helps a lot to have when you're performing these jobs on the cars. And another question that I got was the air box. What did I use to take off those bolts? They're all going to be 10 mils. I use a short socket with an extension, and I took all of them out. Get yourself a pick, a set of picks. This comes in handy when you're dealing with the sensors and you're trying to remove the stubborn clips. Get yourself a set of picks. For most of these tools, I picked them up at Harbor Freight, a couple of them at Sears, Home Depot, Lowe's, and Amazon. Another question that I got was, why is it that I unplug the 12-volt battery, also the hybrid battery at the same time, anytime I'm performing the job with the EGR cooler? The only reason I do it is because I don't want to trip any other codes to come up. The system's so sensitive that I just don't want to deal with none of that, so I just unplug it just to be safe. And also, I don't have a big scan tool to diagnose if there's something was to go wrong and have a problem with any codes that come up. I don't want to be at a point where I'm not going to be able to fix it because I didn't just take that safety precaution by just unplugging both of them, performing the job. Once I'm done, plug everything back in, and it's like nothing happened. So I just do it to be cautious of that and be safe. Also, so you don't electrocute yourself. I know that you guys see me working without gloves on, and a lot of people get scared because they see the orange cables in there. But get yourself some gloves to prevent anything happening to you guys or any accidents. I just do it this way. It's just been in my nature to just go in there and just tackle the problem. I just make sure that I unplug the batteries. And if you want to take an extra step, you can always unplug the batteries, turn on all the switches inside, push your brake pedal, turn on all your lights, just to make sure there's no power whatsoever. The inverter does hold a charge, so if you're going to work in the inverter, be extra cautious on that. I'm not sure how much of a charge it holds, but it does hold some kind of current inside of there, so be very careful. The last question that I wanted to answer was the question was that they replaced their hybrid battery and they're still having a triangle come on. The best thing there is just to, if you have a scan tool, keep checking it, keep chasing those trouble codes until you get down to it. And if the area where the battery is at, the area got wet, make sure that all your connectors are dry. That's what I did with mine. Unfortunately, I still had an issue with it, and for my case, it was the battery. But make sure that you check those connectors, make sure that everything's dry, and just unplug everything and let it sit a couple hours. Go back to it. They do sell an electrical dryer wire. It's a little can. I don't have none of it now, but it comes in a can about this big. It's a blue can. It's about this size with the orange top. You can get this at O'Reilly's or AutoZone. It's electrical wire dryer. You can spray the harness inside it'll dry it up. It's an aerosol can, so you could follow that, and once you plug everything back in, and if you're still having that triangle, just keep scanning and try to find those codes. And I had a similar situation like that with the 2010 Prius, where the triangle kept coming on even though we replaced the hybrid battery. And for that, our case was that we needed to replace the inverter. The inverter was going bad, so it kept throwing the triangle. It said check hybrid system. It kept telling me to check hybrid system. So what I ended up doing was, I was limited to the diagnose that I could do at home, so I ended up taking the car to Toyota, did a diagnose there. It ran us about $150 to get a diagnose done. Came home, looked up everything, looked up all the trouble codes, and on the paper there, and the salesperson, the sales rep that handles the parts, told me that one of the main ones was the inverter, and I also had the issue with the head gasket. So that I ended up doing the repair for the inverter and doing the head gasket on that one. So that's what happened in my scenario. Hopefully it could just be a simple connector that was wet and it's giving you that trouble code. Or check the yellow plug that goes into the safety plug. On the bottom of that, there's a ground. So when you're clicking it, and if it doesn't go all the way in, it could trigger the triangle to stay on or come back on. Every morning at a cold start, it'll come back on. So just make sure you check that plug. If it's loose or anything's wrong with that, you might have to replace that orange plug. Best of luck to all of you guys. Any questions, just please drop a comment. I'll try to get to them as best as I can and answer them as best as I can. There's one that I'm still working on a wiper motor assembly, on if something's wrong with it, how to troubleshoot that. I still haven't figured that one out, but once I do, I'll let you guys know. If you guys could please hit that like button, guys, it helps the video get out there to other Prius fans, or anybody that's having issues with their Prius. Maybe the video will help them out. I much appreciate you guys. Thank you guys for watching, and stay tuned for the next video.